everybody, Carly here with episode 4 of Tea Time with Dragons. Today's episode is brought to you by a orange spice tea from a unfortunately defunct tea company called Badger Tea Company. I bought several of their teas at a convention a few years ago, and when I tried to look them up to put their information for this episode, I could not find anything on them. I found a Facebook page that hasn't been posted on since 2009, and their website no longer works. So those of you that know me from conventions, if y'all have any idea who Badger Tea Company might be today, I would appreciate it because I'd really like to give them credit and post their information. It's a really nice orange spice tea. The orange is a nice base for the spicy flavor. It is a black tea. I really enjoyed it, and I would like to buy more, and I would like to give them credit. But if you guys know of any other orangey spice teas, let me know in the comments. I would love to find excuse me, I'd love to find one that would make a good replacement, because it is one of my favorite teas and I am almost out of it. So today I am working on a dragon head. It was originally going to be a death. I originally wanted to paint a Dracolich, and it turned into a life dragon, amusingly enough. It's weird how that sometimes happens. But it's another Inktober piece that I'm posting for that, done in the Sakura pigmented pens with the jelly roller pen for the white. I really like the way the white pops off the page and how the sepia ink from the Sakura pens goes really well with the Strathmore toned paper. Today I wanted to talk about how an idea goes from inspiration to the page. The previous video I talked about inspiration and why I paint dragons, and when I have an idea, it usually comes into my head fully formed. I can see the pose of the dragon, the colors of the dragon, the shading and the highlights, and the where it is and what it means, and it comes to me as a fully formed image. Sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes I get snippets, and I will get just a general theme or a general idea, and the idea will not be fully formed. Those ones don't ever make it onto the page. I try, and I try, and I try, and they never finish out. A lot of times I will have an idea rolling in my head sometimes up to 5 and 6 years before I can get it on paper, because I have to be able to see it fully before I can start the process of creating a full painting. When I get the idea, I'll start with a thumbnail or a couple of different thumbnails. Usually, again, at this point I have the entire painting figured out, so I don't need more than a couple of thumbnails, and even when I've tried to elaborate and maybe find a better pose, they don't usually work out. But they start as a tiny thumbnail, usually about 1 inch tall to 2 inches tall, something like that. Very, very simplistic, just shapes and 3 types of shading, a dark, a medium, and a light, to kind of get where I want your eye to go and things like that. And then from there I go into a full-size drawing, which I try to do it true to life, true to the original picture. So if I'm doing a 16 by 20 painting, I'll do a 16 by 20 drawing. The drawing phase is where I figure out the detail work, the coloration, more of the detailed highlights and shadows, what direction I want the actual light coming from, where I want the focus to be, details like leaves or scales or things like that. It's as close to the painting as you're going to get without color. I've changed my process a little bit in this. I'm trying to do more putting shading and highlights on the actual drawing and trying to plan out as much of the painting without color as possible. Recently, I would just do the outline of the sketch and some of the detail and then kind of hope that it worked out in the paint, which is not a great way to do it, because you end up with weird lighting situations or focus points in weird places on the painting. There's a lot of little mistakes that you should really plan out beforehand. So as a conscious effort from my side is I'm really, really trying to get more of the planning part finished during the drawing. I love color, I love watercolor, I love applying color, so it's something I get really excited about, and it is something that I tend to rush into a little bit, which in order to make better art, I need to plan it better on the back end. Goodness, my voice is just not coming out well today. So that is changing. I've been working on a lot of decks, and I've been cranking out a lot of artwork very quickly, which has made me change how I do things for the full paintings. As of October 2017, which is this month now, I have not created a painting for the DragonLadyArt brand in a year. It's always been either the Hay House deck, which just released earlier this month, and the new Butterfly Dragon deck that I'm currently working on. So as far as paintings for painting's sake, I haven't released any, but I have painted, at this point, 60 paintings in the past year because of the cards. A lot of them, and I've had to simplify a lot of them because of the time limit that I'm on. So I've changed and adapted some of my drawing style and painting style in order to get that artwork done. And you can't cram 60 paintings in a year and not get better at some things. So I'm really happy with the direction that the watercolor aspect is going, and now I would like to focus more on the drawing aspect, which is another good reason for these videos and working in the ink and just doing the drawings. I'm really happy with the drawings that I'm working on this series, and think that even from a year ago, you can definitely see an improvement. And as an artist, I would like to continue growing and improving with each piece that comes out. So I get the drawing finished, and from there I will, if I need to scale up or scale down the drawing, I will. At that point I scan it into the computer. If I have some edits that need to be done digitally, I will. It's pretty rare. I usually get everything worked out in the drawing, but every once in a while I've drawn like a head that I really like, but it's too big for the drawing, so I will go in and adjust it digitally a little bit. Not very much at all. But I do really like having that ability to make repairs like that or fixes like that in the computer. I also try to draw to real life size. If I'm working on a bigger painting, like a 16 by 20 painting, I do have a large format printer. It prints up to 13 inches, and then I think the other one is 11 inches by 17. I may print them out on multiple sheets and then tape them together before I transfer them. When I transfer a painting, I use the graphite paper underneath that I've purchased from Dick Blick, things like that, and I will just trace over the top of my drawing to apply it onto the board. Up until very recently, I was using the Crescent Pro watercolor illustration board. Recently, I don't know if they've changed the sizing that they use or something, but I started getting weird lines in some of them. So if I would do a wash, the wash wouldn't come out smooth. There would be this light stripe in the middle of it. So I switched over to Arch's watercolor boards, and I liked those better, but I'm still not quite happy with them. So with the Butterfly deck, I've completely gone from using watercolor board to Arch's cold press watercolor paper, the heavier one. And I'm really liking it. I've never cared much for watercolor paper in the past, so this is a new thing, and I'm like 15 paintings in, and I'm really liking the watercolor paper, and I will probably switch over to it. I would like to do watercolor stretched on stretcher bars. We'll see if that ends up becoming a thing in the future. So once I get the drawing down, I go over it in the watercolor, and I will discuss at a later date the watercolor techniques and tips that I use. I may do some watercolor sketching in this video series later on, at which point I will probably discuss the watercolors. I do use Daniel Smith watercolors. I really like them. I really like how pigment loaded they are, and the brightness of the colors, which is fabulous. So that's episode 4. Thank you guys very much for listening and keeping up, and please follow me. I'm on Facebook, I'm on YouTube, of course, I'm on Instagram and Patreon, and I just started a DeviantArt account, all of which can be found at DragonLadyArt. There's links below. Go and check them out. If you guys have any other questions or topics that you would like me to discuss, please let me know. Please throw in your ideas, or if there's something that you've always wanted to ask me, please go ahead and do so in the comments or through my social medias. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and thank you so much. Bye.